Hello everybody, welcome to my class. Myself Ajit Singh Angwar. In last lecture we have discussed about some of the features of Microsoft Word. Today we are going to discuss some more detail about Microsoft Word. Let me start. In Microsoft Word, whenever you study, you will face one term, that is WYSIWYG, and the full form is what you see is what you get. Now question is that what is the meaning of this? What you see is what you get means whatever you are doing work in your Microsoft Word, same output you will get from the printer. So what type of output you want, exactly you have to do the things in your document. And ditto, a copy of same document will be generated by the printer. Now let's discuss some other terms which you will face. The very first term is word wrap. Now what actually mean a word wrap? When we start typing over here, what actually happened, the line will end over here. There was a time when we have to press the enter key, but nowadays in our word processor there is no need to press enter key. As your text reaches to the margin, your text or cursor jump automatically to the next line. So this is your word wrap feature. When your cursor jump from one line to another line. Otherwise, if you have to generate gap between any two line, you have to use enter key. So this is how you can create a space of one line. Now come to the show and hide button. You can see there is a one symbol over here. This is a symbol which stands for show and hide. Whenever we are using certain buttons like enter, spacebar and tab, so whenever we are pressing these keys, no visual thing will be appear on the document. Some action is performed, but no visual thing is appear. But internally there are certain symbols which will be appear in our document which cannot be seen by us. But if we are interested to see how many times we have pressed enter key or spacebar key or tab key, so we can click on this show and hide button which is available in home tab. So when you click on this button, you will find that in your document some strange symbols are there. A dot will be there, a arrow will be there, a paragraph mark will be there. So these actually represent how many times or at what places you have used enter key, spacebar key or tab key. And whenever you want to disappear them, again you have to click on show and hide button. You cannot delete these symbols from your documents. So sometimes whenever student open a document, they find this type of symbols and they will try to delete them, but they face problem. So there is a very simple logic behind it. Simply you have to click on this show and hide button. When you click on this, all these symbols will disappear. Now come to the margin. What actually margin is? Margin, definition of margin is a space between text and the paper edge. Whenever we are working in a document, we know that the white space is our workspace area. So this is actually paper edge. Now whenever we start writing, we are not exactly start writing from the edge. We are leaving some amount of space, and that particular space is termed as margin. Margin is of four types. If we talk about horizontal margin, margins broadly can be classified into two categories. One is horizontal and other one is vertical. Vertical means something which is lying above, in middle or bottom. But mainly we are dealing with horizontal margin. Horizontal margin is of four types. The first type is left margin, second is right margin, third one is center, and fourth one is justify. By default, our document, whenever we are working, our text are left aligned. You can select the text and change the alignment. Alignment buttons are available in the home tab. Then we are having a right alignment. Generally, right alignment is not used. Center alignment. Whenever we are writing some headings, titles, then in that case we are using center alignment. Then come to the justify. Whenever you are reading a newspaper, you will find that your texts are equally distributed. You will not find any extra space on the right side. So how it will happen? When they are writing a lot of paragraphs, but they are not leaving any space on the right side. So this can be managed with the help of justify, or we can say that in all the newspapers content are justified. So what actually happen in case of justify, your whatever left margin or right margin in between your whole text are distributed, equally distributed, and that is termed as justify. We can also say that the appearance of the document become better, but we can say that the gap between the text is not uniform. Generally, when we are writing a paragraph, we give a space of one character between two words, but that is not in the case of justify. So you can observe this by seeing your newspaper, where the gap between two texts is not uniform in a line or a paragraph or in any other news. Now come to the indent. Many times students are confused between what is margin and what is indent. Okay, I'm just telling you that this is basically a paper edge. This is our margin. So this is our margin, but it is not always that we are writing our text from the margin. Sometimes we are leaving certain amount of gap from the margin, and this type of gap is termed as indent. So we can define that whenever there is a gap or space between text and the margin, so that is basically termed as indent. The definition of indent is this one. Whereas in case of margin, the space between text and the paper edge. Indent is classified into 4 categories. The 4 categories are like first line indent. So let me see how a first line indent is look like. If you're writing a paragraph like this, now you can see there is a gap. You can see this is a gap. Our paragraph starts from here. So that actually a case of first line indent. My first line having some space before it. So there is a gap between text and the margin. Second type of indent is hanging indent, where one line, first line starts from the margin, or this is my margin, so you can say that like this, but rest of the lines having a space from the margin. So this type of margin is termed as hanging. Like I am showing you my fingers. This is my first line which starts from the margin, and rest of the lines maintaining certain amount of gap. In case of hanging, it is like this. In case of first line indent, my first line having certain amount of gap, but rest of the lines are starts from the margin. Now let's talk about the other two type of indent. Left indent and right indent. If all the lines are maintaining equal gap from the margin, so that is case of left indent, from the left margin. And when we say that all the lines are maintaining a same amount of gap from the right margin, that is termed as right indent. So these are the 4 type of indents, and you can set these indents from the ruler bar. On the ruler bar you will find certain buttons, and by dragging these buttons you can create hanging indents, left indent, right indent, first line indent. And it may possible that you can utilize more than one indent. You cannot use first line and hanging indent together, but first line indent can be with left indent as well as right indent, whereas hanging indent can be applied along with left indent and right indent. Now come to the page orientation. Like this is my page, this is my book. You can see it is like a page. Our page is in a rectangular form generally. So it is up to us whether we need a printout like this manner or this manner. By default, our printout will be appear like this way. And this is known as portrait orientation. And if we want to get the output like this manner, so we can say that this is our landscape orientation. Like if you have to print a timetable, it is better to use landscape. If you have to write an application, definitely it is portrait. So there are two type of orientation. Now let me see what is inserting and what is overwriting. This term is used when we are doing editing. Editing means making changes in your document. As you know that a word processor allow you to make any change anytime, and that is a feature, one of the feature. So in case of inserting, what actually happen, between any two words you can add in new words. Rest of the words move away, they will provide the space for the new word. It is just like a student, a latecomer student join a line. But in case of overwriting, what actually happen? Like in a line, we are having a limited space. If we are going to add a new student within the line, so we have to remove one of the student. So same thing happen in case of overwriting. When we are start inserting a particular character, from the cursor, on the right side of the cursor, all the characters starts deleting depending upon how many characters we have typed. So in case of overwriting, deletion is also happen automatically. So we have to switch over from inserting to overwriting mode from the status bar. If you see on the status bar, there is a button for insert, and we have to click over here on insert to switch over